I think when we start to look around and ask, what am I paying attention to? What am I bringing into my life? And does it reflect my values? And does it allow me to grow and expand in this beautiful alcohol-free life? Welcome to the Sober Edge podcast, inspiration for alcohol-free living. I'm your host, Terry Patterson, functional nutritionist and This Naked Mind senior coach. The Sober Edge is a place to explore the infinite possibilities on the other side of drinking. In a culture soaked in booze, discover the wonder and joy of taking a different path. Meet real people living lives of purpose and passion. Learn the truth behind the alcohol myths and get ready to be motivated, inspired, and astounded by what is possible with the Sober Edge. You're listening to episode 157 of the Sober Edge podcast. Before we get started, I want to make sure that you have grabbed your free ticket for the 2024 Sober Summit. This amazing event is right around the corner, happening September 25th through the 27th, and I'm excited to share that I will be one of the fabulous speakers. Last week, I let you know about the Sober Summit, which kicks off soon, and more details will be coming out. But this event just keeps getting better and better. So again, there are 24 amazing speakers lined up over these 3 days, and all of their interviews with the fabulous Maggie Clausens are free. Get inspired, get motivated, get tips and tricks on how to create your best alcohol-free life. These interviews are totally free to you for the first 24 hours once you register for your free ticket. After you register, you'll also have a chance for the all-access pass for a reduced price. This means that you can go back and listen to these recorded interviews again and again. And a little backstory for me, I found Annie Grace and became a This Naked Mind coach because of a summit. Not the Sober Summit. That's something that's only been around for the last 2 years. But I listened to Annie Grace on a summit about addiction, and it changed my life. So what life-changing moments are available to you in these interviews with these amazing guests? I hope you'll join me and 23 other speakers for the Sober Summit. You can grab your free ticket in the show links. Well, hey, everyone, it's Terry back with another edition of the Sober Edge podcast. And I want to ask you a question. What are you paying attention to? I recently asked myself that question, and it's fascinating to take a closer look. So there's a couple of things that led me to this question. And one was I was cleaning up my office, and I was noticing the stack of books and the journal and the notepad I had, and I was thinking about what someone would know if they entered my office. And then I thought about this quote, "You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And the next thought that bubbled up for me was this idea of who you hang out with and what that tells us about our life. So I think it's interesting because all of us have things that we experience in our life. And some of those things come at us, and some of those things we seek out. And in this alcohol-free life, when we get past just becoming sober and we start living sober, I think there's this beautiful opportunity to really curate our lives. And I've talked about this concept before, but I was really struck by what are you paying attention to? And so I want to invite you to take a look at 3 or 4 different areas and go on a little journey with me. So if someone were to want to get to know what was most important to you, there's an idea that where we spend our time and money shows what our values are. For example, someone who values experience might spend their time and money in travel. Someone who values safety might spend their time and money creating a beautiful home and having a secure job and growing in their education. Someone who values relationships, where they spend their time and money, might look different. It might be spending time with someone, visiting someone. It might mean spending resources to connect with someone on a regular basis, even buying gifts for someone to show their love and care. And so I think when we start to look around and ask, what am I paying attention to? What am I bringing into my life? And does it reflect my values? And does it allow me to grow and expand in this beautiful alcohol-free life? So this quote, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now, I wondered who had said it originally. And so there's a couple different ideas of where this quote kind of came from. And one is Jim Rohn, who was a wonderful motivational speaker. Another was Jack Canfield, also an incredible motivational speaker and the author of The Success Principles. Tim Ferriss is quoted as sharing that quote. And so it doesn't really matter. But if we think about it, in this alcohol-free life, we have an opportunity to explore these relationships in a new way. And I really feel like for many of us, we start to gravitate toward people who are wanting more out of life, wanting to show up differently, wanting to grow, wanting to live their life by design versus default. And I've noticed that in my own life. And so I wonder, if you were to take a look at the 5 people you spend the most time with, what would you find? And so one thing for me is this experience that I had last weekend at Sober in the City really just reminded me of how powerful it is to be in the room, to rub shoulders with, to connect with, to have deep conversations with people that you are interested in, that are also growing, seeking, thriving, and also have all of the foibles, weaknesses, vulnerabilities that all of us have, right? That are fully human, but not hiding behind the mask of alcohol. And so it was such an incredible weekend because I had the opportunity to make new friends and meet many new people, some of whom are leaders in this alcohol-free space, and many who are simply, like most of us, just on this journey of living an alcohol-free life or exploring an alcohol-free life. And it was so incredible to have these deep conversations with other women and to check in about how life is going and what are you doing and what are you paying attention to. They're also at these events, the Sober in the City events. I've been to many of them. This was my 5th one, I believe. And so what I love too is coming together with other thought leaders and coaches and business owners and entrepreneurs in this space, because this business for me grew out of a mission and a passion. And so when I'm with other leaders in this space, I feel that passion and I get to experience their passion, and it really ignites me and lights me on fire. And so when I think about the people that I spend time with, I am investing time and resources to be in that place where I am connecting with these other high vibe individuals. And there is such an energy with that. And I've talked to several of the people and friends who have also returned from this event just a week or so ago, and we're all still kind of buzzing because that high vibe energy doesn't go away overnight. We kind of marinate in it. We soak it in. It seeps into us. And so when you think about the people that you're spending time with, what resources, time, money, energy are you putting into the relationships that matter most? And are those relationships serving you, lifting you up? And hey, I get it. Some of us have somewhat toxic people in our lives, or people that maybe aren't high vibe, but that we're still, in close proximity with, and that's okay. But the ones that you get to choose, like we can choose our chosen family, our friends, I invite you to look at those relationships and make sure that they are the people that you want to become like them. So that's one way to pay attention to what you're paying attention to. And then when I walked into my office today, I looked at this stack of books and I thought, wow, what would someone learn by looking at what I'm reading, what I'm listening to, what I'm paying attention to, what I'm inviting into my life? I've used the concept of curating our life before, but it really does feel like when we create space with removing alcohol, we have this new opportunity to bring in new things. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but many of the clients and the leaders that I hang out with in this space talk about all of the books that they're reading, all of the podcasts they're listening to. So many books, so little time. And I agree because I've realized that as a lifelong learner, I want to keep growing in these areas that light me up, that feed my curiosity, that help me connect to this deeper work I'm doing on myself and work I'm then hopefully taking out and sharing with my clients and the work I get to do in the world, such as this podcast, right? I take all of the things that I am bringing into my life and then I try to reflect them outward. And so the books that I read are very important. So if you were to walk into my office, you would see a stack of books. And there's a couple I'm reading currently, and I just finished Breath by James Nestor, which has been a book I've wanted to read for a while because I've been thinking about breath work. And it really brought me back to some of my nutritional roots, and so that was an incredible read. I also have a book I'm reading for book club, and I have a book I'm reading because I'm going to be doing a book series. And if you're interested in the book series or the book club, I will link those in the show notes. But, I love to bring the books that I'm reading and share them with other people. I just feel like when we do that, not only do we get to be in community with like-minded people, but my learning is deeper. So currently, we're reading Indistractable for book club, which I think is going to be a fascinating read, and I've just started on it. But I love the idea of kind of honing in on our focus and what that can mean to our day-to-day life. So, yeah, take a look at the books that you're reading and ask, are these books that are lighting me up? Are the things that I'm inviting into my world, feeding my soul, feeding this energy? Are they giving me this high vibration that I desire in this space? And so podcasts, you could check in with your podcast playlist and see, what am I listening to? Is it serving me? And then what am I watching? And of course, many of us like to pay attention to the news. I will confess that I have not watched the news for about 20 years now. I certainly do not consider myself ignorant, but I don't like to get caught up in someone else's version of the truth or the story. And as we know, we live in a divided political climate. And with the election year, I am finding myself spending less time listening to and scrolling through things that are news related. But that's up to you. Pick what serves you and notice, how is my energy when I watch or listen to that particular news channel or show? What is my energy like when I listen to this podcast versus that podcast? What about the books that I'm spending time with? Are they serving me in a way that feels good? If I'm spending time with the 5 people that I want to become, am I reading 5 books that are helping me become more of the version of myself that I want to aspire to? And so I'm also currently doing a couple of courses. And so that's kind of new for me, but it's really fun. And I'm finding that as I study more, I'm doing a course through Yale and a course through Stanford, and then I'm recertifying for my This Naked Mind certification. And so all of those things are reminding me that, this is what I'm bringing into my life. This is what I'm choosing to pay attention to. If someone were to see where I spend my time, they would notice that I'm doing a lot of work on the inside and hopefully reflecting that on the outside through my podcast and my Tea with Terry and my coaching calls. And so I want to invite you to do the same. Maybe just sort of take an inventory of, what am I paying attention to? Who am I spending time with? Where am I putting my time and energy and my focus? is it feeding me? And is it a reflection of my values? One of my values is curiosity. And so the reading that I do a lot of reading and taking these new courses and continuing to explore new ways to learn more about alcohol use disorder and midlife and growing and thriving after we let go of alcohol, that all feeds my curiosity. So, what is happening in your world? If someone was to walk into your office or your bedroom and look at your bedside table, or someone was to look at your phone and see what podcasts you're listening to, what would they find? Are you becoming the person you want to become? And if not, use this inventory, perhaps, if you choose. No directives here, you do you, but if you choose to take a closer look, what would you change that might serve you better? Do you have some outdated podcasts, perhaps that are no longer of interest to you? I hope you keep listening to The Sober Edge. But I noticed that in my own podcast playlist, sometimes I'm listening to things that are more lighthearted. I'm listening to more business podcasts. I'm listening to more personal growth. I'm listening to more alcohol-related podcasts, medical podcasts. And so I switch it up a little bit. So you might revisit and make sure that the things you are listening to are really connecting to the person you are and the person you want to become. And then I invite you to think about putting yourself in a room with other alcohol-free men and women, because there's something really special. And so whether that room is a Zoom room or that room is an in-person room, whether it's a sober meetup that you find in your local area, I think it's just so special when we connect and we grow and learn together. It's one of my favorite parts of this journey. And so I want to ask you again, what are you paying attention to? All right, well, that's what I have for you on the Sober Podcast, the Sober Edge podcast this week. I hope that you will get back to me and share your own thoughts and tell me, what is it you're paying attention to? What did you find if you did this little inquiry into where you're spending your time, your energy, your resources? I would love to know. I often say in this world of alcohol-free living that we don't have small talk, we have big talk. So let's keep the conversation going, and I will catch up with you next week. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sober Edge podcast. This is a place for important conversations and a safe place to question everything you thought you knew about drinking. If you're looking for your sober edge, I want to invite you to connect with me at thesobernutritionist.com, where you can grab my free resource, Becoming More, a guide to loving your sober life. And I would be so grateful if you enjoyed this podcast, if you would leave a rating and review, as it will help more people find their sober edge.